What's happening, everybody? Hope everybody's having a fantastic Sunday. Down here in beautiful southeast Texas, we're waiting on yet another tropical storm, hurricane, whatever. I think this one's going to be called Beta because, of course, in the year 2020, we just flat out ran out of names and have now defaulted to the Greek alphabet. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, if you're going to hold a record, I mean, just might as well hold all of them, right? Anyway, what I wanted to chat about tonight is some behind-the-scenes stuff. You know, stuff that goes on behind the scenes, the stuff that happens behind the camera, some of the outtakes, some of the funny things that can happen along the way when I'm trying to put together either a live thing like this or when I'm doing one of the videos. And one of the more funny things that has happened, or at least one of the more memorable, was actually filming the minivan video. So I wanted to walk you guys through some of the funny stuff that happened in that video, or at least during the making of that video. Unfortunately, there's no way for me to actually put that on the channel, and for several reasons. Primarily because when I was filming that, along with other times when I'm filming, there's only so much room on this phone that I'm filming with. And of course, I'm not using editing software. That's going to be kind of a big part of this discussion. But anyway, because of some specifics, I wouldn't be able to put it on there, but there was some really funny stuff that happened during the filming of that video. So I figured I would bring you guys along for the ride and kind of bring you guys behind the scenes, let y'all know what all was going on. So let me check in with everybody. Antoine, check it in. What's up? What's up, man? Bum's checking in. Say hello, Mr. B. Got the arm flex. I like it. Pata Gator side. I'm just going to call you Pag. What's up, man? David Hubbard's got the Hellcat in the garage. Yeah, she's sitting back there just hanging out. Did some work on her this weekend, tuning-wise. Speed Freak saying, Ian and B need some help with tires for the race stars since nobody has ET Street Rs. What's the next best option for 17 by 9.5 for the track? Well, depends on what your fronts are. I don't like bias plies on these cars. So I would say ET Street SS. It depends on where your power level's at. But, you know, 305, 35s, we've consistently gone low 150s with those tires at about 22, 24 PSI. So that'll give you an idea as far as what I would run. Yeah, I heard about that, by the way, and I've got to put my order in too, so go ahead and put me in line. Looks like I'll be helping to clog up the works on that thing. Checking in with everybody, and then we'll get in that deal I was talking about. So Scat's checking in. What's up, Mr. Mason? I got the arm flex. BB78 saying, always love the chat. Question, email tune or dyno tune? Preference, opinions, you got to do dyno tune. But you need to do it on a loaded dyno, Mustang dyno, any type of an eddy current dyno. That's what you're going to need to put the thing on. And you need to be working with somebody that speaks fluent Mopar. Now, the dyno tune does not... Let me put it like this. The dyno tune isn't better than a street tune. They work together. They're a marriage, okay? A street tune is not better than a loaded eddy current dyno, and vice versa. You need to marry the two together, and that's how you get a proper tune. Each one can perform different tasks. Good example of that, Little Miss Revlon. I did put her on the dyno. I got some baseline ideas as far as what the car was going to like. But with the car on the track, in real world conditions, that's where I do all my transmission tuning. I can't do that on the dyno, and I can't do it on the street. I have to have it on a prepared surface. So in that respect, dyno tune on a loaded eddy current dyno with somebody that speaks fluent Mopar, and then if you can, get the thing to the drag strip to really file in on that transmission tune. David's asking, what's the other car? I missed it. Oh no. Well, right now I'm talking about the filming of the minivan video. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It was actually kind of funny. Coda's asking, hey B, what is roughly the timing you have in Revlon? You're on 93, correct? Well, so you're saying you're at about 15.5 degrees and haven't seen any knock retard. Brother, I'm at stock timing until I get to a line of cells that is basically anything 6,200 RPM and above. And what I did there is I just extended the timing values. The stock table basically dumps timing up there. I just maintained the timing. That's it. There is no timing value. So if you're at 15 degrees of timing, that's going to depend on which cell you're talking about. Saying I'm not seeing knock retard with my new chiller system, 2016 with catless mids, 285 upper on 93. So reading through the rest of it, you're at 285 on 93, 15.5. Take a look at just monitor your knock sensor voltage with that timing. I would say that if you're at that timing, you are at altitude also. Typically with that setup, you'd be looking at like 14 or 13 degrees of timing. With your setup, I wouldn't really go too much heavier than that. But if you're at altitude and you're in a cell in terms of airflow that doesn't allow for any less timing, in other words, you just aren't pumping enough air into that engine to need a lower timing value, which is how these cars work on the tuning, then you may be okay. But that timing value is going to depend heavily on the altitude that you're running in, and then compounded with the density altitude that you are corrected to. David's asking, what's wrong with the Hellcat? Nothing's wrong with the Hellcat. In fact, she's doing a little bit too good, as a matter of fact. Jerry1320 checking and saying, what up, B? Got the arm flex. I like it. Jerry's saying, question, I have a 1320 Scat with the Nitto Tri-5 R2 275s fit all the way around. Yes, they will. I know you said they're a little wider and have clearance issues up front. They will fit, but I wouldn't, they're slightly wider. The thing is, really, for me, the 315 sized tire on the back is just a little bit of a headache because even though I've got a 10.5 inch wide wheel, it's a bit of a headache because they're just, the way that they're made is just a little bit too big, frankly. But the 275 seems to work pretty well. I think it'll be in good shape. I wouldn't worry too much about it, brother. Let's see. Boosimi saying, AB, I got a 147 60-foot and my full weight Charger leaving it idle was getting 155, 160 at different RPMs, 1200 to 1600. So I will say this, flashing the converter can sometimes net you a better 60-foot. The only problem with flashing the converter, and that's when you come off idle with no load on the car. You're basically coming right off idle and flashing it over. It's what I used to do with the NA cars, what I do with NA cars, frankly. But here's the thing. The only problem with that is that you can run into a problem on with track prep with that. You can if you can sneak it in other words, if you can get away with it, is what I meant to say, then you can sometimes shave about 300s to 400s off of your 60-foot. But that can sometimes come at a cost of wheel spin or at least an inconsistent 60-foot. If you've got a very well-prepped track and that track is a consistently very well-prepped track, then you should be pretty good. I used to launch the Demon right off of idle when I was doing all the data logging at the drag strip. So, and I think this is a crappy DA though. It's a 2,900 to 3,200 foot DA. I was in the 138, 137, but this is a Pulley E85, or no, this is a Pulley Q16 car, no less. So there's some other stuff going on, but even with that car, I didn't come off of it hard on the foot brake or anything else like that. And it would drag the front tires for about 8 feet. Coda's saying you're in Dallas, Texas. Yeah, I mean, you're not really at a very high altitude. Dallas is about 550 feet, give or take. Just watch out. Look at your tables and look at airflow. Make sure your airflow tables are adjusted past like 1.5, 1.6, 1.7 is what should be added to it. Interpolated, and then I probably wouldn't go above, really honestly, 12 or 13 degrees of timing on 93. If you're not getting crazy knock sensor voltage, you might be okay. it's not uncommon for the cars to do okay at that timing value. I'm just concerned about low DAs for you. Again, just check your table if you have access to it. Check your tables and make sure that once you start getting into airflow of like 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, that timing value starts to be around 15 at that level, and then 1.6, 1.7, you go 14, maybe even drag it down to 13 or 11 once you get into the real heavy airflow numbers. Just looking out for you, brother. Either that or throw Boostain at it. It's, you know, Boostain and pray, I guess, is the new way to go. Chris McVeigh, thoughts on the Nissan Z? Totally in love with it. Can't even stop thinking about it. Cody Shaden saying, thank you for the info, by the way. And by the way, I am not joking about that Nissan because I love the new Supra and I can't wait to get up close and personal with the new Z. David's asking, 700 plus horsepower will loosen up the trans and definitely the spider gears in the rear end did that a lot during the 80s in my Plymouth Duster, for sure. You know, it's funny talking about the Hellcat too, 700 horsepower. I remember when 700 horsepower was 700 horsepower. And I also remember when 700 horsepower was like a mid to low 9-second car. It's just funny. I love the Hellcats, love Revlon to death. It just amazes me what these cars can do nowadays. Scat, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Captain's asking, AB, could I put your sniper cam in my 5.7 and it still be a reliable daily driver? Yes, you could. In fact, I can tell you it can be a little bit choppy in a 5.7. Not too bad, though. The way that cam is put together, it's actually more... It acts like it's got a wider LSA than it does, and a lot of that has to do with the load profile. That's why that cam is not an NSR grind. In fact, far from it. And I only recommend PSI 15-16 springs with that cam. 15-15s will not work properly at RPM with that. Now, that being said, it's going to want to turn to about 6,800 RPM. So just know that coming into it. Word to the wise. But, I mean, it'll be fun. It'll sound good. I'll tell you that. It'll be a little soft down low. And then at about 3,700 RPM, get ready. She's gonna get lively. Actually, that cam will work well. Check out Dr. Differential. Check out the Joker cam. If you like the idea of the sniper cam, then you will probably love the idea of the Joker cam in your car. Sniper works really well. That's what Rob Panton has in his car, his 392 car. Doesn't lope, doesn't do anything. That cam is really only there to put power everywhere in a 392. It's not there to fetch power big time on the big end, because when I put that cam together, I originally put it together for me. It was going in Shalandra, and it was sniper because never see it coming. Couldn't hear it, didn't even know the car would have a cam in it, but it would pick up, you know, with the long tubes and everything else over stock, a significant chunk of power. Even with Rob's car being full kit already, that cam still picked up 35 horsepower to the rear wheels, peak to peak. So that'll give you an idea as far as how that cam does. Pretty good little cam. But anyway, if you want to hear what a 5.7 sounds like with a cam that's kind of like the sniper, but not exactly, check out my Joker grind over at Doc Differential. You will love the way that thing sounds. And apparently it is the weapon of choice for anybody that wants to go play the how far can you smoke the tires game with a 5.7. So it's called the Joker grind, mainly because it just puts a big, you know, smile on my face every time I hear it. It is a nitrous grind, another play. All the cam names that I come up with have multiple plays on words, by the way. So anyway, those are just two of the reasons why it's called the Joker cam. Love that cam, great profile, but again, not an NSR grind. You're going to have springs, push rods. I even would recommend Stanke tie bars and collars with those things, mainly because it's going to want to turn to about 6,700, 6,800 RPM. Ported intake, don't really need a different throttle body, but a larger throttle body won't hurt it. He's asking, is Jay Green good and trustable? Yeah, I mean, I don't have any beef with Jay. He's been in the business for a while, does a good job for the internet guys. If you don't have access to a tuner and you can't get your car shipped down to a shop, or it's just completely inconvenient, then yeah, Jay's a great resource in that situation and has got some good success as well. And hey, Cap, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Let's see. Oh, Boondock is saying, hey, B, what do you know about that funny looking Charger from Amarillo? That is Mike's car. He's got his brother David's got the Mustang. I mean, he had a little bit of a problem at one of my track events. You know, there's a certain level that you get to with these cars that to go any farther requires an investment that is, I think, beyond reasonable, at least to get to cover a number, unless your only goal is to attain a certain number. And I think his car got to that point. You start looking at guys like Z, you start looking at guys like B. Sanders, you start looking at guys like that are consistently running 840s, 850s at 165, 170 miles an hour, whatever they're running now. To get to that level is an obnoxious place to be. I think that his car is right at that point, and man, what is that, like a 940, 930, 950 car, something like that? You know, haven't seen much of it, haven't really paid a lot of attention to it because I've been nose to the grindstone lately. But that being said, cool dude. Like talking to the guy, he's a nice guy. So hopefully he's getting his car sorted if he hadn't already. Let's see. Sky's asking, what are you guys getting 0 to 60? At the drag strip, I'm like, what is it, 2.4? And on the streets, like a 3.6, 3.7. Just depends on traction. And again, Captain, thank you very much for the contribution, brother. Boost is saying track was sticky. Sweet. Yeah, if you're getting, if you've got a real sticky track, you can get away with flashing the converter. The only other thing about flashing converter, hard on diffs, hard on axles. David Hubbard's asking, can a 345 be tuned to shift up to 6,000 RPM? Yes, it can. In some cases, you need to shift closer to 7. Scat Speed, what up, B Mason? What up? Got the arm flex. I like it. Who's going to be saying, Sky, I get 2.5 at the track. There you go. Multiple Mopars checking in. I like it. Scat Speed saying, I need a sniper cam. Everybody gets sniper cams. Multiple Mopars checking in saying, I got to call you soon. Demon is having issues. Looks like we need another supercharger. Warranty time. Oh, nasty. Hit me up tomorrow, man. I'll be I've got an appointment at 6:30. I should be done with that at, I don't know, probably 10. So I should be free sometime after 10 o'clock. So hit me up, brother. If y'all are familiar with Molten Mopars channel, you got to check him out. Man is living the dream. In fact, it's his drive shaft is in Little Miss Revlon. Dr. Div is saying, B Mason, how are you this evening? Highlight in the topics. What's up? Oh, Boondock is saying, well said about the next level performance. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you got to remember, you get to a certain level, right? And then from that level, you've got to get to a next level. It's like there's no gray area with these Mopars. You either run 940s or you run 890s. There's really no middle ground. And yeah, you can argue weight reduction and all this other stuff. But listen, weight for weight, car for car, what have you. That breakover point, let's call it a 940, 950, just for the sake of argument, because it makes it easy to chat about. That is, for some will argue differently, but for a lot of guys, that is the max effort that they're going to go to, because to get any faster than that is going to require nitrous, for one, which makes a lot of people skittish. Number two, could require different short block, primarily because you're thinking that a 426 is going to get you there, but it doesn't if you can't feed it. That's where Whipples come into play. You can already see where this is going. Stock blower with nitrous on stock displacement is good for low nines. I mean, it's been done over and over and over again. As a matter of fact, it's also gotten some folks into the eights. Hurt a lot of feelings, by the way. But that's kind of the wall that you're going to hit. After that, to get to the next level is going to be paper heavy. So you're looking at all kinds of money to go about half a second quicker. And then that's when all the structural stress really comes into play. You got to start looking at all of your suspension. You got to start looking at tires. You got to start looking at taking weight out of the thing, because you're not taking weight at this point. This is the funny thing. You're not taking weight out of the car to go faster. That's just a side effect. You're taking weight out of the car to limit the load that the rest of the platform is having to deal with at launch. Believe me when I tell you, if I were to give you 100 pounds and just hand it, screw 100 pounds, if I just gave you 15 pounds, said, here's 15 pounds, and then I kind of tossed 15 pounds at you, and then I got to run and start and threw 15 pounds at you, that 15 pounds is going to have a significant different effect on your body each and every time you come into contact with it. It's the same thing in racing, and it's the same thing when you start building something making a lot of power. Weight is not only not your friend, it's your enemy, and it's your enemy because, number one, it keeps you from going fast, and number two, if not ballasted correctly, can cause all kinds of problems. So anyway, let's see. Oh, Kevin's asking, what does NSR mean in reference to a camshaft? NSR means it's just the letters that make up the no springs required. So what that would say is that a manufacturer will say it's an NSR cam. I will sell you this cam. You don't have to put different springs in this thing. They will recommend different lifters, Hellcat lifters. But they'll say you don't need a different set of springs. I don't believe in using NSR cams, or I don't believe in not putting springs, I should say, having a spring package with an aftermarket camshaft. The reason why they'll say you can use your stock springs is because your stock cam is actually pretty brutal in terms of how it plays with your valve train. It doesn't have much duration. It's only like 218-ish duration. But it's got 577 lift. Basically, that lobe looks like this, which is kind of hell on lifters. And they're saying, well, if you have a wider duration, basically just a bigger footprint on the lobe, it should technically be easier on the cam, or on the lifters, and on the springs. And so they'll say, well, the valve control should be easier with that bigger cam. That's one school of thought, but you got to flip that thing back. It's the profile. So 218 and a 577 lift, that's true, but if you've got a very aggressive profile, that lobe is going to look something completely different. I suggest only running with PSI 15-16 springs. They don't pay me. I just know that I don't have any failures across the board with that spring. With cams that have profiles that are aggressive, let me just put it to you like this. When they're aggressive enough to make the Hemi run the way that it should, you're going to run into valve control problems. It's the other part of it. These things have goofy valve train geometry. They have heavy, big valves that you have to control. And to do that, that takes a heavier spring pressure. But anyway, that's where the NSR comes from. CFL James got arm flex. I like it. Mark saying, I can't see Professor Mason streaming and not stop through to show support. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that, man. It means a lot to me. It really does. Thanks for hanging out. Destroyer 1320 saying, hey, Professor Mason just got back from a race week 2.0. What a blast, man. Love this channel. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. I heard it was a lot of fun. I wish I could have gone. I've been tied up, but stoked that for you guys that got a chance to go, I've heard a lot of good things about it already. David's saying that his main goal is to put in a 426 and a Dana 60 rear end with 456 rear gears, but that's for later after the engine would need to be rebuilt. Man, that is a lot of rear end that you might not have to put. Depends on what platform you're putting it in. But definitely off to a good start. If you're starting off with a 426, the rest is going to need to be beefed up. Destroyed 1320 saying, hit the like button, y'all. And Shawnee saying, did you say 950 was kind of where the stock block Hellcat starts letting go? No, not really. So here's the thing. The stock Hellcat bottom end, we've seen folks get ridiculous with the stock bottom end. I mean, 950 though is about the place where most guys stop. And it's not because of the short block. It's just that's typically where guys will start to stop their progression. If they decide that they're going to go any further, in other words, they're going to hit it with nitrous or they're going to hit it with, like a 4.5 Whipple or something like that, typically other things are going to be going on. That block's going to be coming out, and they're going to be going with a rotating assembly either way. They're going to be going with molar pistons and rods. They're going to be going with, basically a 10 over setup machine, possibly a 10 over setup, but for sure, drop in something that's going to be a little bit more robust. But I can tell you that 1,000 horsepower to the rear wheels has been done over and over and over again with the stock Hellcat bottom end. The problem comes when there could be, a low DA day, bad fuel quality. There's other things that are involved that can cause the issues to pop up, and, tune issues, and the list goes on. And so, when you're dealing with the type of cylinder pressures that these engines make and the load that they're under to get these barges moving, you can see straight away that you can potentially run into some problems. So, realistically, for a multitude of reasons, a 950 car is about as much as you're going to see most guys push that stock bottom end. Let's see. Destroyer 3020 saying 6 from 1,000, brother. Can't wait. Yeah. David Hoover saying 450 horsepower, good enough for me right now. I'm at 376, and with traction control off, you can park the tire shifting into fourth gear. Absolutely. Love it. Destroyer Grace, rotating mass is where it's at. That's another good thing about it. Sean, thank you very much for the contribution, brother. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And yeah, you can get the rotating mass down with the aftermarket stuff too. That's one of the benefits of the red eye short block. If you crack one of those things open, it looks eerily familiar if you've ever held a set of molar pistons in your hand, by the way. But thank you again, Sean. I appreciate that, brother. Mustang Labs asking, how's that Fox body coming along, baby? Oh man, she is doing really well. I'm kind of bummed because I didn't get a chance to play with it this weekend. We're in the process of having a tropical depression level grade, 1 hurricane park itself right outside of basically our backyard over here. But basically the Fox body, she's doing great. The tune looks good. She runs fine. There's some body work that needs to get done. The C-pillars need a little bit of work. Where the hatch bolts on, it's kind of a known Fox body issue. Water can get behind the bolts or get around the bolts, and it can kind of jack up. There's 2 parts on the C-pillar that'll just bubble up a little bit. If I ever get around to it, may look into fixing that. But she's doing great. I mean, the car screams. It's a lot of fun to drive, and can't say enough good things about it. I am just about, though, to do away with the electric fan setup. It's going to go back to a mechanical fan. With this thing being a 351 car, it has a tendency to get hot. It's constantly running that electric fan. It's a bit of a headache. I'm not doing any racing with it. This thing is just here to entertain. And so, you know, putting the fan on the car really isn't going to do anything but just pull more air. And in the process of putting the fan on the car, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a Cobra water pump pulley on it, which is slightly bigger. So any power that I lose from putting a clutched fan on the thing, which is nothing, I'll get back basically just less parasitic loss with the water pump. So 6 to 1, half a dozen to another. It's still got stock size pulleys. And I mean, they're itty bitty water pump, big crank pulley. So you kind of see where that's going. And all that has been in an effort just to try to keep the thing cool. And keeping it cool with just a small electric fan is kind of a headache. Plus, I like the durability and just the, I don't know, just the reliability of a mechanical fan setup. So I've got to find a shroud, find a fan, throw it in, and call it good. Let's see. Donald's hanging out with David. David says, so you're saying the 345 can handle a 6,000 RPM shift. In 1968, people used to try to run 10,000 on the 196-inch Hurst Hemi darts, and those engines ended up grenading. Well, there's a huge difference between running 6,000 RPM on a modern V8 and, you know, doing that kind of stuff with the older engines. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty of guys. The thing is that 345, it'll run to $6,000, but you're kind of out of its power producing potential at about 55, 58. I mean, I would say pull it once you see 55 come across your tack, because I mean, you're just not going to do yourself any good unless you've got other modifications that'll allow it to spin to 6. With the cammed cars, that's a completely different story. But for a stock car, you don't need to turn it that hard at all. 55 is actually the sweet spot for those things, because when it falls down, when it falls back, it's going to be right in a nice fat chunk of its, what the hell? It's going to be a nice fat chunk of its torque curve at that point. Let's see. Speed Freak's asking, how much time can be knocked off quarter-mile run with the trunk speakers, front and rear seats removed? Well, you got to think of it like this. The rear speaker, if we're talking about a the HK system, that is 14 pounds for your Harman Kardon subwoofer. Your tray is 12 pounds. So that's 26 pounds right there. The seat is about 65 pounds. So you're looking at 90 pounds there. Look to pick up maybe a 10th-ish with all of that removed. With the rear seat pulled out of the car, you would also have to pull all the extra stuff that comes with it. This is just, as an aside. All of that assembly weighs 45 pounds. So you put a rear seat delete in it 52 pounds. And when you put everything back in it with the rear seat delete, I think the total savings was like 42 pounds. So that's another place you can save some weight. But, just pulling out the seat and the speakers, you might save around a 10th-ish. I don't know. The thing is that it doesn't represent a very large percentage of the weight, but any amount of weight loss will help you. Let's see. Oh, Shawnee's saying E85 with an upper pulley puts my Hellcat at 900 plus horsepower? That is correct, yes. How much more money from where I am now to this point? Well, here's the thing. You're looking at $1,300 for a fuel system. You're looking at about probably, call it $500 to install it, give or take. So that's $1,800, plus you've got to have a set of injectors. And be about $2,400. You're looking at a retune. Call it now, you're about $2,700. Oh man, I don't want to forget anything. I would say budget somewhere around $3,000, and that would probably put you right where you need to be for that. Not counting the pulley. So say $3,500 in total to do the pulley, the swap, retune, the fuel system, basically kind of a soup to nuts deal there. Somewhere in that range. In other words, a lot. Joshua was asking, random question, but I'm selling / trading in my Scat Pack and going with a Hellcat Challenger. Do you know any major differences in the years? For the Hellcats, academically speaking, no, there's no difference. There are some slight differences, but nothing really worth pointing out. Nothing about the interior until you get to, and let me rephrase that. Well, maybe I may have stepped on myself a little bit by saying that. Okay, so the early 15s are good. Mid to late year 16s and early 17s had problems with superchargers. So just know that coming into the conversation. Actually, it was mid-year, like mid 15, 16, 17 was like the very, very tail end of any issues that I'm aware of on the superchargers. You'll notice that there's going to be some differences in how the cars are equipped, but for the most part, there's really no difference there. The adorable dyslexic gauges, which mine does have, that went away in 2015. If you want to run a Z Automotive Taser, 2015 will not allow for the steering wheel buttons individually to be used for line lock or light show or cool down or anything like that. The steering wheel buttons are inactive on the 2015s. The Uconnect, let me rephrase. So 2015, 2016 are mass air cars. The 2017 is not. Now, the mass air meter isn't really an issue for the 15, 16s. It doesn't mean it makes more or less power. It's like a check and balance thing. I mean, you don't even mess with mass air on these cars, but again, it's a check and balance for the ECU to monitor airflow. Don't need it. It's not that big of a deal. But just know that the 17s can be a little bit easier if you want to put a different hood on it. Stuff like that. It's just a little bit easier. Intakes are a little bit easier to install because you don't have to worry about mass air meters, things like that. So getting into 2018, the Uconnect gets a lot better. It's a lot less glitchy. 2015, 16, some 17s had some glitch with the Uconnect, but they pretty much gotten that squared away in 2017. But 2018 is really where you want to start. So 2019, you get into the really nice Uconnect. That's where you get the rolling dyno. You get some other stuff in there as well. The graphics are better. It loads more quickly. So those are kind of the differences. Now, powertrain wise, no, there is no real difference. There's some operating system changes along the way, but for the most part, the Hellcat platform has maintained a very consistent profile. The NA stuff, especially the 392s, had a fairly significant change in 2018, I think. The cam profile, the cam phasing was completely different. The cams are the same, but the phasing is different in the OS. And it's different for the better because they're snappy as shit, the later cars are. So anyway, hopefully that helps. Shawnee is hanging out with Speed Freak. Cleaver's checking in saying, what up, B? Approaching 70,000 on the Scat Charger. Any preventative protective maintenance? Yeah, the typical run through. You can at this time, if you want to, basically go through it. Transmission probably doesn't need fluid, but I would say diff for sure. I would go diff, coolant, and obviously give her an oil change, and maybe bleed the brakes at this point. I think that would be a good spa day for your for the Scatty. CFL James, man, thank you very much. So CFL James saying, for your detailers, try out Rupee's polish with yellow DA pad or wool medium. I need to get some wool mediums. Did my 1320 with 6-inch orbital, and it did win the Riddler Award. No joke, it's great stuff. So I've got some Chemical Guys stuff that I got some 32s. That stuff flashed on me. I did everything in the garage, and that stuff flashed real quick. Not a big fan. Haven't tried the 36 or 38, I think it was. But I picked up, what did I pick up? I picked up some, I know I picked up a red pad, but I'm going to be working on Revlon, and I'm just going to give it just a machine operated polish, just a good mop, get it nice and, basically it's going to get washed. I'll clay bar it, and then I'll start hitting it with, hit it with a polish, and then I'll hit it with, pretty much any type of carnival will work on that thing. I do like the synthetics though, and I like the synthetic stuff because it stays workable for a lot longer. You don't have to rush when you're working with it. Some of that Chemical Guy stuff works really well, but you just have to work at it. Let's see. Dee's asking best current available throttle bodies for Scat packs. Well, you guys know that I'm a big fan of the, I'll put it to you like this. I know Doc Differential's got some billet ones that he's working on. For something that is a standalone kit, that one works pretty well. But, oh God, what is it? I've always recommended it. For some reason, I'm just drawing a blank here. Anyway, make sure it's a through-ported throttle body. For some reason, Jokers is jumping into my head right now because I was just thinking about ported superchargers. But at any rate, that's Fastman throttle body. Sorry, had a brain fart there. Fastman does a good job with the stock stuff. Check out Doc Diff for the billet stuff. Kevin's asking, Mason, have you run into a car that has the Joker cam and the E-Force kit together, and what kind of power do you think it would make? It would make it would do really well. The profile on the Joker cam is such that it would do well with a positive displacement supercharger. It would start to get real efficient again at about 3,000 RPM with a PD blower. But it would be just fine down low because it's instant boost. I mean, that's instant cylinder fill. So at that point, you don't have to worry about scavenging so much. That's what that supercharger does for you. I don't know that there are any running around with a PD blower and the Joker cam, but I can tell you this, that car or truck would scream with that profile. So, in fact, I'd like to see that, as a matter of fact. You talk about something that would be nasty at about, I mean, shoot, you'd probably be looking to pick up easily another 30, 40 horsepower with that kit. So, I mean, you'd be well over what a 392 would be, for sure. I mean, well over it. I know Dr. Diff's dad's out sniping after 392 cars with his car as it sits. It's out there giving those guys hell. So, yeah, I mean, you would certainly pick up, it would pick up big time above. Let me rephrase this. Okay, so yes, it would pick up power, but here's what that cam would allow you to do. If you had an E-Force kit that was set up for 7 pounds and you put that cam in, it would probably make about 5 pounds. You're going to lose some boost, but it's still going to pick up power because the whole package will be more efficient. If you want to maintain that boost level, you can throw a smaller pulley ratio at it, and that's what I would recommend doing. Put the cam in it, throw a more aggressive pulley ratio on it, make your 7 to 9 pounds of boost, but now you're more efficient and you're utilizing the boost in a more efficient way. It's like a double hit. That'll get you a real nice bump in power. So you figure if you'd have picked up 40 just with the boost alone, you got 40 with the cam. I don't know. Like I say, I'd love to see it on a dyno. I don't really want to speculate in power, but between pulleys and a cam, it certainly it'd be nice for sure. Sean saying Fast Man throttle body hooked him up with about 6 horsepower. It worked out well on mine. I liked it. Sam Gray was checking and saying, yo, B, what's up, man? Let's see. Sean's asking, what could you do to add a little compression to your 351, and will you? I could pull the 64cc AFR 185s off of it and put a set of 58cc's on there. That would bring it up to about 9.5 to 1. And man, to be honest with you, I'm just not that motivated to do that. Right now, my biggest limitation is the intake manifold. You know, it's a GT40, and if you're not familiar with GT40 intake manifolds, the top runners on a GT40 intake manifold are very nice. They're clean, they roll over, they're beautiful. It's the lower runners. And without disassembling the whole rig here, the problem with the lower runner is that it comes out of the plenum, makes a slight arc up, and then literally has this 90-degree turn. It just wrecks power production above, say, 4,800 RPM. And if you look at the dyno chart on this thing, I mean, it is making torque gangbusters, and then once it starts to get inefficient, it just, I mean, it's hemorrhaging torque. So if I wanted to make more power with this car, it would certainly require a different intake manifold. Something along the lines of a Edelbrock Performer RPM would do very well with this setup. It would probably pick up, I'm just shooting a guess here, 20 to 25 horsepower. It wouldn't lose any torque, and it would allow the thing to have a more natural power band. The way that it sits now, it's a little too responsive down low. Yeah, everything that's working against it to make horsepower is actually helping it to make torque down low, and it's very responsive. But you know, now you're up against the whole thing where, do I take the 373s out of it and put a set of like 323s in the car? Or do I leave the 373s in the car and just put a different intake manifold? It just depends on, do I want to be working on the front and the top of the car, or do I want to be working at the back and the bottom of the car, basically? Because to be honest with you, that's sort of how the driving experience would play out, except with the intake manifold, it would just drag the power out to, say, instead of making peak power at 5,300 RPM, it'd probably make peak power at about 6,100 RPM, somewhere in that range. And that would, again, I mean, you take the torque curve and move it over, you know, 500 RPM, it wouldn't lose torque, it would just lose, you know, bottom end torque. But you take that torque, move it out like that, and yeah, you'll see about a 20 to 25 horsepower difference, I would guess. Camshaft saying, awesome, thanks for the feedback. Would a 3-inch cat back exhaust cause me to lose any power in my 5.7 versus a 2.5, like what comes stock with a 5.7? Nah, it won't really lose any power, but that's only under wide open throttle conditions. It may make it feel a little bit soft under partial throttle, and that's kind of the biggest beef that you'll have is that, see, here's the thing, a lot of guys only look at wide open throttle conditions. If you play on the street a lot, you'll find pretty quickly that wide open throttle is not really where you have some of the most fun. A lot of it is in transitional areas. You know, being able to have the car at 30, like this thing is a perfectly good example of that. Being able to have the car at 3,500 RPM and then roll into the throttle real quickly and have it just light the tires up. That's what this thing does. It's a lot of fun. You don't want to have to wait for it, so to speak. And so, but anyway, to get back to the points, I kind of starting to go off track here. A 2.5 exhaust is going to promote velocity in low airflow conditions. It's going to keep the gas moving, so to speak. It's not just going to, you know, the way the exhaust is just kind of dumping into a 3-inch under low power conditions, low airflow need conditions. 2.5 inch just kind of keeps things moving along. It just may have a restriction at some point, but typically a 2.5 inch exhaust will manage somewhere easily in the 425 horsepower range. So you want to size the exhaust properly for the application. for the RPM range of the engine and for its intended use. Again, it's not going to kill power under wide open throttle, but it may make the car feel soft under partial throttle. So it's something to think about. Dr. Duke's saying, just a question, now that Mustang's becoming more of a cruiser for the street and high ride stuff, why not go full send on Revlon? I mean, go slow with it, but Revlon could be a monster. Wouldn't want to ruin the car that way, which is exactly what happens. The problem when you start going full send with anything is that you go full send on see ya later with the car just being fun. And considering that I take that car on a lot of road trips, I'm not interested in that. In fact, it's boring to me to go extremely fast. It's super easy. I mean, it's just a ton of money away from doing it. So why not throw a ton of money at it and just go full send, right? I'm not big into cubic dollars. I'm big into more fun than anything else. So, and besides, I've been there and done it. I mean, I've had my time with stuff that's really fast. That thing, I'm really shooting more for what can I get out of it with stock boost. And, and 93 octane gasoline. I'm a little bit more of a purist with Revlon than a lot of guys have been with their Hellcats, not to mention the fact that I've seen exactly what happens with Hellcats when things do go wrong. Bad fuel quality, bad luck, you just never know. And so that's the reason why not going to do it. Not with that car. It's the wrong platform. If I'm going to go full send with somebody, it's going to be LS powered. And I'll just come out and tell you that because the reality is for what you can do with something LS powered, like a truck, for example, it would be cheaper for me to buy the truck, put a cam in it, turbo it, fuel system, E85, and go 920s with that truck, 950s with that truck, than it would be for me to try to campaign that Hellcat. So, and that's just where we sit right now with all of that. So, it just goes back to that argument, which way do you want to go? And for me, I'm going after a 93 octane number. I'm going to take Revlon and I'm going to break some hearts this fall and winter. I'm going to post up some numbers with this thing. I'm hoping it's going to make some folks a little upset. And I'm going to do it on 93 octane and I'm going to do it on stock boost. So we'll see what that works out like. Doctor saying a little squeeze or meth and some boost, done. Nah. If I did anything with that car, it'd be nitrous, and call it good. But see, even with that, I mean, the distribution on that setup is just not that awesome. And, I don't know. Not my cup of tea necessarily. Sam saying, I miss the single cab race truck builds. Yeah, those are fun. David saying, thanks for the info. Mopar forever, for sure. Love me some Mopars, but if I was to build something real fast, the problem is Mopar just way too much paper to get that where you need to be. Oh, D saying, Fastman throttle bodies aren't available. What? Call Dr. Diff. Sam's asking, can you run a 671 blower on a modern Hemi? Yes, you can, but I wouldn't recommend it. Joshua was asking, what's your opinion, preference on clutch pulleys over something like Metco, and opinion on the 272 upper 10% lower with fuel upgrades? Well, clutch pulleys are great. They're a little heavy, but they work very well in terms of keeping stress off of, the crank. It doesn't ratchet the crankshaft, the crank pulley, I should say. So in that respect, they're okay, but it does, to me anyway, represent a bit of a potential problem with that pulley. You start really trying to turn the wick up on a clutch pulley. There's other workings that are going on in there, as opposed to just being a solid piece of billet aluminum. But they're fine. They work great. If I were to put something together, it would not have a clutch pulley though. It would just be lower pulley pinned, and that upper pulley. Opinion on the 272 upper 10% lower with fuel upgrades. That is your generic, 970, 950 combination right there. That pulley combination, fuel injector connection 127s, a injected engineering pump setup, and the tune. I mean, put a drag pack on it, and you can't help but run mid-nines with that setup. So, let's see. You're saying, yeah, fast man. Let's see. Dr. saying, soup to nuts. Yep. That's what you would need to do it. Nose to tail. Josh was saying, thanks for the info. Highly appreciate it. Any year you'd recommend, it'd pretty much be living at the track. Of all the cars, which one would I recommend? I would say if you've got the cash for it, get a 19. Mainly because everything is kind of cleaned up in that car at that point. The 15s are endearing. Some will even argue the 15s are the fastest of the group because, reasons. I would tend to agree with that, especially the red ones. But no, seriously, I mean, if it's in the kitty, I would say 18 and up. Oh, that's the other thing. 18 and up has a little bit stronger drive shaft than the 15, 16, and 17? Question mark. I want to say it's stronger than the 17, but I don't know if the part number did change. But at any rate, the later cars do have a slightly stronger drive shaft, if that means anything to you. But again, the rest of the car is pretty much the same. The drive shaft, by the way, is not the same from the Hellcats to the Red Eyes and Demons, though. So just know that coming into it. If you're planning on throwing the kitchen sink at these cars, it's going to need to have some type of a drive shaft. Let's see. Mustang Lab is asking, what's the weight difference between a Challenger and a Charger with the same packaging? About 150 pounds, give or take. In some cases, let me think about that for a minute. Yeah, about 150 to 170 pounds. Josh was saying, always helpful, bud. Again, appreciate it. Check me out on Instagram and let me know what you think about my Scat Pack and if I should go the Hellcat or not. Oh, yeah, check him out. Man, I tell you something. To each their own, but I'll tell you this. So Ray Z and I took his brand new 1320 out last week. And we were making hit after hit after hit after hit after hit with that thing. And we couldn't get it to the drag strip because they had like a drive-in concert at the drag strip. And yeah, I know, right? So the next best thing was just to take the car and go play with it. He didn't even have, at that point, he didn't have 300 miles on the thing. The fun thing about the 392, the NA cars in general, is that you can take that car out, have a lot of fun with it, and it's just fun on the street. I mean, you got two grown-ass men in this car acting like a couple of hooligans. I mean, it was just hysterical, and we were having fun with it. It's that type of fun that you just can't have with a Hellcat. So, what the hell flew into my nose? You just can't have that kind of fun with a Hellcat. They just want to light the tires up. You've got to be on a tire for these things to hook. Any mods whatsoever are going to send basically whatever tire you've got on the back of it up in smoke, unless you've got a ton of serious modifications to hook it up on the street, which you're not going to have. I mean, nobody does. Not on a Hellcat. Very like one or two that I can think of. So there's that. Should you get a Hellcat? Depends on what you're going to do with it. I got mine because of just how durable Hellcats are. They're a lot of fun because they are durable. I don't know what you want to do with the car, so I can't really give you a recommendation, but if you like playing with the car on the street, that Scat Pack is in a very, very sweet spot. Let's see. Yes, Jay's asking, are they the same horsepower for the 392 2015 to 2018? Yes, they are. Dr. Diff on the throttle bodies. Yes, check him out for those. Dr. Div saying one you're thinking of is Fastman. Yeah, for some reason Fastman just didn't register. I was thinking the Joker because, well, we were talking about the Joker cam and then the old Joker ported supercharger, which, no. Cody's saying, I might be the only person who thinks this, but 5.7 Hemi, 4.7 Magnum, a Trackhawk, and a 4.7 2-valve pull like crazy. 4.7's a good engine. It's an older engine, Mercedes-Benz derived engine. Sean, he's asking, would a lower pulley Hellcat benefit from an upgraded throttle body? They do. They do. You're at the level at that point where it starts to make a difference. Let's see. Dr. Div saying Frostbite Ram here on YouTube has a Torch Storm supercharger and is getting the Enforcer that we used in testing in my engine. We can see how it acts and adjust from there. The Joker would be bad. Yeah, it would. Yeah, check out. So Dr. Diff is doing a build. You're going to want to check that out for sure. Let's see. Mustang Live saying, have you ever slept on a Mustang when you come across them on the street and get burnt? On the street, not so much. I don't do a whole lot of roll racing. They're fantastic platforms for roll racing, though. But the ones that I was going up against the most were all the NA guys when I had Shalandra. That was before, though, a lot of folks started going... let me rephrase that. That was before the flurry of Whipple and Procharger Mustangs really started coming online. And this is the 2018 and up cars, by the way. There for about 2 years, really about a year and a half, I should say, but two full seasons. It was typically NA for NA, but from that point forward, all of those guys started going boosted. So you just don't see too many of the NA guys so much anymore. The herd had gone from NA to boosted along the way. And most of those cars are, 980 to 1020 cars for the most part for the boosted guys. Some a little quicker, some a little slower, but for the most part, they'll go from running, an 11, mid to low 11s to, mid to low 10s typically. Let's see. Oh, Doc Div's checking in with Sean. Let's see. Robbie's checking in saying, does back pressure really matter? Like, have a muffler, not just being straight pipe from the cat's back. No, not at all. I mean, there's really back pressure is not something that you're looking for. In fact, the only systems that'll give you back pressure are going to be turbocharger systems. No, what you're looking for is velocity and pulse tuning when it comes to your exhaust. That's one of the reasons why if you have a chambered muffler, X pipes typically don't work well, because you have this the reversion pulse can kind of stack up the flow on that X where it kind of flows together. Some of the X's just aren't very good. You actually need as much volume as you can get with that X to promote flow. And some of the ones that basically force the pressure waves across each other can actually run into some problems if you've got a chambered muffler. If you've got a MagnaFlow, which is a true through muffler, they'll work a little bit better. But no, back pressure in general is not something that you're looking for. Think about it, if that were the case, then you would see exhaust restrictors in Hellcats, or you would see exhaust restrictors on motorcycles. It doesn't work like that. You want as much flow, but you also want as much scavenging as you can get out of your exhaust system. And scavenging based on where you want to make power and where your intake manifold is designed to make power, because you have to remember, it's not your exhaust. It starts right here at your air intake and it ends at the tailpipe. So it's the entire system together as a unit. So you have to tune your exhaust around your intake manifold, which is based around your cam profile. All of it works together. It's a concert, not a solo event. Dr. Diff, thank you very much, brother. I appreciate it. Got the contribution to the cause. I like it. Thank you, buddy. Let's see. Oh, hang on. Oh, Dr. Div's hanging out with Sean. Cody's saying, so for an NA build, stick with OEM size pipe. Yeah, don't worry about, don't overthink it is what I'm getting at. You got to remember that, you know, it's kind of funny. Guys will really get into, you know, flow and exhaust size and all that stuff. For the street, honestly, it does not matter. Pick what fits. Pick what gives you the most clearance. Pick what works. What works for your platform. And typically your stock system will be just fine. Now, if we're talking about, you know, manifolds, that's going to be something different. But again, the pipe diameter, don't worry about it. As long as it's not like 2 inches, you'll be okay. Dr. Div saying like what? Oh, the Ram, yeah. Yeah, your pointless truck, the truck that only runs 10s. Thing screams. Dee's checking in with Doc about the prices on the throttle bodies. Very cool. I like that. See, Rugby Mills. Rugby's saying, anybody else want to answer? Oh, the question. Yeah, that's what I was just saying, man. Unless there's another question that I missed. Dr. Diff. Say, fuck that up. Cap saying, thanks very much. Appreciate it. You got it. And Dr. Diff still hanging out with Sean. Costing on those throttle bodies, $300 to $400, which is actually a really good deal on a throttle body, guys. So if you need one, you're thinking about one, give Dr. Diff a holla before he sells out. Oh, Rugby saying, does back pressure matter? I did a full muffler delete, and my friends told me I lost power. Well, I mean, do your friends, you know, have a dyno? I mean, no, it's not really going to make any difference, man. Especially with these cars. You know, it's just not. I wouldn't worry about that at all. You didn't lose anything, except maybe some hearing. Roy was also saying, I have a 2008 RT with Diablo Trinity, a cold air intake, and no muffler, but still have my cats and lowering springs. What should I do next? Any, looks like he's saying, any recommendations? You know, I would say it needs to be dyno tuned for sure. And from there, I'm not sure what would really be next for you. Depends on what you're looking to do with the car. Suspension mods, I would say, would probably be your first bet, as well as tires. If you're on a budget, I would say BMR, lower trailing arms, would probably get you your first, would be the first on my list. Oh, if you got lowering springs, make sure you get that car aligned. One of the biggest things, especially if you're on a budget, that alignment's going to pay off in the long run, because your car has independent rear suspension. The guys, when you've already got some negative camber on your rears, when you lower it, that negative camber gets worse. You start rubbing the inside or using the inside of that tire more. And I've seen it over and over and over and over and over again, where guys didn't get that thing aligned and it just eats up tires. So first things first, my man, if you don't have it aligned, you got to get that car aligned, or else you're going to start eating through tires quickly. Let's see. Josh was saying she's full bolt-on, Pro Max 150 plate, Kooks long tubes, Catless 390 gears, Lakewood 9010s. Damn, I love that. 50/50 struts, Demon Springs, Ray Stars, slicks, tune, kitchen sink besides inside motor, pushing limitations for sure. Yeah, you are. But I like where you're going with it already, bro. 9010s, that's a good one back in the day. This little girl back here had 9010s at one point. Rugby's taking it in saying thanks to all. Thank you, brother. Rob's asking, would it be better to just go with the supercharger setup and supporting mods for the 5.7 instead of going through the Scat pack stage 1, 2, and 3? Yes, it would. Yes, it would indeed. KS is saying Scat dealer stages are a joke. Not really my cup of tea as well. Just go with the E-Force. They don't pay me to say that. I can just tell you that from my own personal experience, cars that I've driven, E-Force kit is nice, to say the least. Shawnee's checking out. See you, brother. Good talking to you today, too, my man. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks again. We appreciate you. Mustang Lab saying, it's funny how these newer cars with boost are hitting 10s in the quarter, but for less than half the price, a 351 Fox with boost will go just as fast. Gotta love the old school stuff. Yeah, thing is that the Fox body stuff is going up in price. It's getting harder and harder to find a nice one, but I mean, to be honest with you, some of the ones that were only 5 years old were pretty much thrashed back in the day. Don't let anybody tell you differently. Cool thing though is that last Friday night there were a ton of Fox body Mustangs running around, so it's really cool to see them out in full force. I think there was an S trim. It sounded like an Anderson B4 cam car. It was a black 90 to 93 GT out there running 10, high 10s, which back in the day would have just been what? But that was a clean car. A bunch of fun stuff. But yeah, it's weird how the newer cars are fast, even if you're both running, say, a 1080, right? The newer cars do it with no drama, no nothing. They just go whoosh, and they go 10s. And then you're done. There's no stress. There's nothing behind it. So that's the difference between old school and new school, man. I was thinking, I should have brought this car with me, too. I just don't have a tire to run it on, and trans kind of does need a bit of a rebuild. But if you're going to go out in style, though. But yeah, it'd have been a lot of fun to get this old girl down the track. This old warhorse has seen it plenty of times. Let's see. Joshua was saying 672 at 106 in the 8th. 142 60 foot. Best glory pass yet. 2016 Scat. That is screaming. Screaming through. It's nasty for a NA car. Then again, you got the whole thing, the whole kitchen sink thrown at it. I love it. Captain Scat saying, I gotta hit the hay. Early morning ahead. Thanks for the help. Happy to help, man. Hopefully I helped. Hopefully I did help. To you saying I'm late. Just finished watching the Seahawks versus Patriots game. Nice. Oop, lost my spot. Thank you for joining in, TU. Good to see you, my brother. Cody's saying, and with the new school cars, they are way more forgiving when you switch fuel octane, and they can adapt to it as well. They're a lot more forgiving just from the point of view of handling and turning and how they act under load and everything else. They're so much better, man. I mean, I can't even describe to you that there is no describing the difference. The Fox body Mustangs are better than a car designed in the 60s, but I mean just better. The F bodies are really good at being stable. Fox body Mustang is going to be a little bit more twitchy, but yeah, there is a marked difference. I mean, when I drive the Fox and then drive the Challenger, there's no comparing the two cars at all. In fact, I don't like driving the Challenger and then driving the Fox because it makes the Fox just, I don't know, it makes it feel pretty sketchy. But it's awesome. It's what I'm used to, though. So, yeah, I'm not complaining. It's just an observation. Let's see. Josh was saying, but that's where I'm heading. The possible Hellcat would be on the track where I'm at now. It seems to be the best financial move. Well, I'll tell you this. Good thing about the Hellcats hold their value very well. So, there's something to be said for that. And, it'll always be a Hellcat. They're fun. And that's the other thing. Even Hellcats can be a lot of fun. We talk about fun and the fun factor of these things and what is fast and what is fun and all that other kind of stuff. And a lot of people really tend to lose sight of that. And that's one of the benefits that I've got. I mean, I've got the Fox body. I've got Soon to be in Dr. Differential's hands, Sierra, the truck. We've got the Camaro, and the work truck and the Jeep. You know, all of them are none of them are fast, really. I mean, the Mustang is entertainingly quick, and that's kind of the idea behind it all, though, is that you want something that is fun, that is entertaining. I'll be honest with you, man. The Fox Body Mustang, all of the fun is done well under 100 miles an hour. Hellcat, you don't even realize you're doing 130. I mean, it's one of the weird things about the modern cars, that they are just so smooth, so planted, so stable, and again, forgiving at speed and under load. So definitely some things to consider. Let's see. Oh, Mustang Lab saying, do you remember racing Jason Betwarda? Yeah, he had the convertible. First Fox in the 90s. Yeah, I think he passed away in a wreck. But yeah, that was some old school stuff from back in the day. Had a white convertible, if I'm not mistaken. T saying, AOB, have you seen the 400 X prototype? It looks good. I'm glad they're offering it in the 600. So the 400Z. I haven't seen the final release picture. I've seen some renderings, and I saw, was it yellow? Anyway, I saw one, but I was kind of in a rush, and I haven't had a chance to sit down and really check it out. But here's the cool thing. Yes, they're offering it with a 6-speed manual, and I am salivating to see the retail, the production version of that car, because, man, I've got such a dumb spot in my heart for those cars. It's not even funny. Oh, and by the way, don't sleep on the Supra. So, damn it, what the hell? It's like a spider just crawled up my face or something. This past Friday, DA dropped down to like 17 or 1,800 feet down here. And that little boost-only Supra went out and ran 1080s. So, I mean, there's that. I mean, granted, it's not 100%, 93 octane tune or anything, but still, that thing's overwhelmingly impressive what you can get out of them. But that's not really my the whole reason why I like those cars so much. I just like them because they're a shitload of fun to drive. So, or those types of cars are so much fun to drive. That's why I'm so worked up over the 400Z. Cody is saying, similar dilemma with my Corolla and Durango. Corollas are more twitchy with throttle response, while the Durango has the power. Yeah, twitchy is an understatement with some of these Fox bodies. Oh, Joshua was saying, come to Maryland, October 23rd through 24th, Modern Hemi Shootout. Get some good content. That's all I got. Thanks for the info. Really means a lot. Happy to, man. I wish I had the time. I wish I could get down there. I am just snowed in with the old regular day job. Oh, D's asking, best race fuel, Sunoco 260 GT Plus, Boostane, or VP Racing. I have 100 octane tune in my Scat Pack Challenger. I prefer GT 260. That's the 100 octane. 260 Plus is basically 260 GT just spiked with more ethanol. 260 GT Plus is 13% ethanol, and 260 GT is 10%. Boostane is fine. I'm not in love with the idea of Boostane, but it works. So, I mean, there's that. And VP MS109 is kind of the go-to fuel. I believe that one's also 104 octane, but it does not have the ethanol content that the Sunoco does. So it just depends on, between those two, it just depends on where you want to go. I mean, ultimate favorite, I like the GT 260 GT mainly because it's just a good unleaded fuel, and it's not that expensive either. So, well, I say that it's ridiculously expensive, all things considered. But aside from all of that, my all-time favorite race gas is the 85. But anyway, I think you know where I'm going with that. And T saying, I actually like the Supra. I saw a bone stock one on stock tire on 1220s. Yeah, they're no joke, man. The things are not slow by any stretch of the imagination. And I just think they're pretty. Put a different set of wheels and tires on that thing. Damn, they're nice looking cars. You know, the 400, I want to see one in the flesh, man. I got to tell you, the thing, the Supra is just pretty to me. It's a pretty little fun car, you know. No, it doesn't have the manual. It only has the automatic, but I don't know. I want to see the 400. Cody's saying pretty soon the Mark V Supra will have 1,000 horsepower. Actually, there's already a few of those running around right now. So I can't remember the dang name. One of the guys did a full build-up on one. And they were chronicling, you know, some of the issues that they were running into. Anyway, yeah, there's some already up in that neck. There's already some running 9s, if I'm not mistaken. So now, granted, they're nowhere near stock, but something to think about. Pretty nasty little cars. So anyway, I started off, we're talking about, you know, some of the behind the scenes stuff that happened. So I'm gonna kind of get into that for a minute, and then I got to check out. But the funny thing is that there's stuff that happens behind the scenes that you guys just don't get a chance to see, and it's unfortunate. And what I was saying earlier is that a lot of that stuff just never makes it onto the channel, and I was thinking about starting to post some of that because some of it's funny and some of it is just like, what in the hell? So, but the funniest one that I've done so far, and the reason why I was going to bring this up is just because the stupidity of some of the stuff that happens. But it was in the filming of that minivan episode, and so, or not episode, minivan review. So you guys know I don't use any editing software. It's all that entire video is filmed in sequence, and it's done with pause editing. So you just hit pause on your recording. So the entire video is filmed in sequence. That should tell you something right there. I mean, if I screw up 3/4 of the way through that video, I've got to start all over again, which is why I need to get some editing software. But it does create some hilarity along the way. So for you guys that are still on the channel, I'm just going to kind of walk you through some of the funny stuff that had taken place. First of all, if you haven't seen the video is me kind of a tongue-in-cheek, but I actually really did like the minivan. But I got the minivan as a loaner when I took my work truck in to get the Hemi tick fixed. And it turned out to be the 2 bolts on the number 8 cylinder had broken. So they actually had to, it wasn't just a matter of removing a manifold, putting in a gasket and tightening things down. Those bolts actually went bad. So there's that. I'm one of the ones that got hit with that, but it doesn't matter because they gave me the sweet minivan. Now, it is true that when they told me I was getting this minivan, I was like, oh, dude, man, I can't get a truck? Seriously? The guy goes, no, we don't have any trucks. We've got 3 minivans available. And I said, okay, give me the black one. Thought that was pretty cool. Looked like a limousine. Figured it would be cool looking to drive around this sweet black minivan. So I get in the minivan and it's leathered up and I drive it for about 5 minutes and I figure out that this thing's actually pretty sweet. And I had to take some material to a job site in it and all this other stuff. It's actually kind of funny rolling to a job site in a minivan. But I had to figure out how to lower the seats and all of that. And after that happened, I was like, I gotta let the world know about this minivan. So that was the genesis of putting that video together. Really, I hadn't even thought about doing a review on a minivan. But I mean, I don't even do reviews, right? So in that video, the first thing that was kind of funny is if you haven't seen the video, listen for it. If you have, by all means, go back and watch it over and over and over again. Like, subscribe, share, ring the bell. You know how that goes. Anyway, go back and listen. When I'm going across the van to show the shade thing, you'll hear my shin hit the basically the step into the van. It was, I mean, I whacked it pretty good. And I was dealing with that like for the next 3 or 4 or 5 seconds while I was doing that. So just know that in the meantime of doing that, I'm actually going, you know, in the background. It's kind of funny. Anyway, there's other things that had happened though. Whenever you go to pull the stow and go, that strap, the seat just goes down. Well, I didn't know that the first time I did that. So I pulled the seat and the seat just about took my head off. And the driver's seat was in its normal place. And so the seat basically just about took my head off and it stopped. So word to the wise, that happened. That was pretty funny though. So basically minivan 1, your bald buddy Brian 0, just about got straight took out by a minivan seat. So anyway, there were some other things that were going on. I mean, at one point I couldn't tell if the thing was videoing or not. So there was a few takes where I'm just talking to a dead camera. There was one where I meant to hit pause and I didn't hit pause. I'd made it so far on this one, I'd made it into the driving portion of the video. And I went to hit pause and it didn't take. And so it was still filming. So, I mean, you can hear me, if I were to post it, you would hear me, you know, sipping out of my drink. I think I cut a fart. There was like, you know, me playing with the radio, trying to get to a certain area that I was going to do that 0 to 60 pass in. So anyway, I had to start the whole video all over again. There was one, so we get these big ass horseflies down here and they're like, they're like that big. And I had one of them buzzing all around me. And so 3 takes were ruined with me getting pissed off at this fly. And I'm literally chasing after it with the phone, trying to whack this thing out of the sky, which was stupid. I'm sure my neighbors thought I'd lost my mind. So anyway, that's just some of the funny stuff that was going on behind the scenes with me just trying to bring a video like this review of a minivan, how silly, but it was fun to do. So anyway, I finally get done. And one of the things is if you want, God damn, what is in my freaking face? Anyway, if you go back and watch the video, you'll notice that the car is running, or you may or may not have noticed that the car was running. The reason why it was running is because when I would go to get into the car, I would go to start the car, and I didn't realize this, but it would link up to my phone and it would kill the video feed, the video that I was recording. So that happened a couple of times before I figured it out. This was like take 18. Another funny thing. Okay, so watch the video when I'm talking about the stop start feature. This is one of those deals where, now keep in mind, this was probably take 20. Okay, I had already been on driving and I'd screwed that up. I'd been attacked by a horsefly. That had screwed up things. I'd screwed up the filming in general. All that stuff leading into this. The final version of that video is the last take. It was the last take I could have even possibly put out. If you notice the tail end of the video, even the automatic lights have already started to come on. That's how deep into the day this was before I could even get it finished, because there were so many screw-ups and I butchered the whole thing up all the way through. And I knew it. I knew that it was the last take coming into starting that video. I was like, this has got to be the last one. I'm running out of daylight, and I've got, for that 10-minute video, there was probably 40 minutes worth of stuff going on, or 50 minutes worth of stuff going on to get to that. So I knew I had to do that before I got the car back to the house. So anyway, when I'm talking about the stop start feature and it comes across in the video, and it does this for a pretty funny reason. You say you press the A in the hole, and that's going to kill it. And it comes across, you press this A hole. The reason why it sounds like that is because I thought it was funny. As I was saying it, I hadn't even noticed that it was an A in a circle. And I was thinking, what asshole actually ever made stop start feature, because it's a pain in the ass and it's extremely unsettling if you're not used to it, especially if you've got to get moving quickly. Like if you just notice the light turns green, or you've got to make a quick start or something like that, you need to jump over and you've been sitting or whatever. Anyway, leading up to that, it was really unnerving. So I was like, what asshole did this? And then I saw, as I was filming it, I noticed it. It's an A inside of a hole. So you press this A hole, and I just kept going. I just ran with it, because at that point, you know what? I didn't mean for it to come out that way, but it ended up coming out that way, and I just left it in there because it was not going to, there was no way to get around this anymore. Show's got to go on. I've got to make this show happen. We're going to get there. So did the entire video, got done, got back to the house. The lights were already on. God dang it. What the hell? It's one of those things where I think I'll walk through like a spider web or something, and it's somewhere on my face. And every once in a while, the air will hit it and it just like goes up my freaking nose. Anyway, that's kind of that's all the behind the scenes stuff. But it was just funny because the entire process was a beating. And I'm not kidding you when I tell you that it was, all of that had taken place during the course of putting that video together. So when you watch the video, know that there's so much dumb stuff that had happened leading into that video that really the story behind making that video, as tongue-in-cheek as it kind of was, the stuff leading up to that video and during the video was actually funnier than the stuff that you even saw making that. So, let's see. TU saying you should do more reviews, bro. You give Racer X a run for his money. Dr. Dude saying he can review the wife's journey. It's a great little Dodge. All of those things are a lot of fun. Mustang Lab saying trapping. Yeah, I think you were talking about that a little bit earlier. So, yeah, no, man. I mean, like I say, it was fun. I don't do a lot of reviews. I don't get the opportunity to do a lot of reviews, but you know, for me, there was a couple of takeaways that I had from that video and from that vehicle too. We always talk about modern cars being fast. We talk about modern Mustangs being very quick. We talk about the Scat packs being extremely strong, especially through the 8th mile. We talk about Hellcats that have set this performance benchmark that everybody uses to, you know, to metric their vehicles. But it's the other stuff that's fast too. And it's the other stuff that you don't realize is a lot quicker than you think. And you know, take for example that minivan. I think if you timestamp that video, I think the minivan gets 0 to 60 in right at 8 seconds. Go back and watch Bud Lindemann's videos about muscle cars from back in the day. You'd be surprised about how well that minivan stacks up to some of your favorite hot rods from back in the day. Legends, right? Flat out legends from back then would have a hard time, obviously on stock tires, but would have had a hard time, you know, running with that thing in like 0 to 60 or something like that. It's just funny. And, you know, again, it puts things into a bit of a perspective when you're out. Oh, that's the other thing I was going to say. So yes, the part of the video where I do the handling portion of it, and I'm going around that roundabout. So when that was obviously the very last part of the video, and it was starting to get dark, and it was getting dark relatively quickly. You can't really see it in the video, but it's getting to the point where if I don't complete this, I'm not going to have a video to post. And it was, I've got to get to this thing as quick as possible. So it was boom, get to the turn. I'm entering the turn. I lifted the throttle, applied a little bit of brake, and then as I started to turn in, I rolled into Watt, and that thing was flat-footed all the way around that corner. I lifted just a little bit. I had a little bit of understeer. It's kind of like a double apex curve. As I was coming into the second apex, or what would be kind of considered a second apex in this, it started to push ever so slightly. I lifted just a little bit and then went back to being wide open, and the thing stuck like glue. And the laugh that you hear is legit. I mean, I'm legitimately having fun. I've got this grin that's like this freaking long or this wide on my face. So, you know, that was one of the funnest experiences. You know, everybody always says it's so much more fun driving a slow car fast than it is a fast car fast. Well, it's so much more fun driving something that has no business being put through what I put that van through, and the van doing so well and coming out the other side smelling like a bushel of roses. So anyway, just some fun behind the scenes stuff with that van. And if you need a people hauler, those things are, I mean, the way to go. Dr. Dib's asking, D. Mason, have you and the missus run the Camaro and the Mustang yet? It wouldn't be a close race at all. The Mustang would destroy the Camaro. And neither one of them, the Camaro hasn't been to the drag strip, and the Mustang hasn't been to the drag strip in about 15 years. GM said, I did 147 in my 14 Ram 1500. Sounds crazy, but it didn't take long to get there. Intake and a tune is all it's done to it. This stuff will run, man. Tad's saying, hell, it pulled off my old catch can. It looked like there's a lot of glitter in it. 19 Daytona 392 is 7,500 miles. Yeah, what is a lot of glitter and what are we talking about? Because if there's any kind of oil, if there's any type of glitter in your catch can, it can come from one of a couple of different places. I doubt that it's coming from your engine. If there's some type of anodizing on the can, on the inside, that could be deteriorating, coming off, and you might be seeing that as glitter. If you're talking about glitter in the term of like what we would, the colloquialism for, you know, like the brass glitter that's in oil bearing, basically bearing material, that wouldn't necessarily be in suspension, and you would know that you would have a major problem. To get that type of material into a catch can would mean that it would be burning oil like at an astonishing pace out the tailpipe. It would be actually, like, that would be a significant, you would see possible oil pressure issues, oil out. I mean, it would be burning oil through the exhaust. You'd have a ton of blow by. I don't know, Sierra's got a ton of blow by and doesn't burn any oil out the exhaust pipe, but you know, that's just a different story. But yeah, I would say that there's something else going on. I don't think that you would have bearing material being carried in suspension, and then that getting into your catch can, because your catch can is catching oil that is in suspension through your PCV system. So again, something to take a look at. Tad saying metal shavings. Metal shavings would mean, I don't know, without pulling the intake off of it and having a look, I mean, I would want to see the contents of that intake manifold. Also, pull your, metal shavings, keep in mind that you have a steel wool filter media, if you will. It's just acting as a nucleation site for the oil that's in suspension to come into contact with, come out of suspension, and then drain down in your can. Could be something with that, but I highly doubt. I mean, for you to be able to get metal shavings into a catch can you would have to have so much crankcase pressure blowing through there that there would be some other issues that would be very prevalent. Saying 7,500 miles, it could still have, this is Dr. Div saying 7,500 miles could still have some braking oil. It's a good call, man. Didn't think of that. Did you do the 500-mile oil change, or is this your first ever? And that's a good point. If the car still has braking oil, or if it's still, very early on, even maybe there, man, but still, I mean, to be able to drag metal shavings through that would be kind of tough to do. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think you're okay, man. I really do. Tad saying he's changed the oil 3 times already. Let me ask you this. When you change the oil, what I would do is I would change the oil again. Next time you do it, I really don't think there's anything wrong with it, but let the oil drain for about 2 seconds, and then get a cup and then sample your oil. Get a couple of plastic cups, put them together, sample the oil, see what's actually coming out of that thing. Let's see. Oh, Dr. Div's hanging out with Dr. Div's hanging out with Tad. Yeah, I just don't. I mean, to me, it sounds like I don't think there's a problem with it. Mike's asking, getting that tick that people complain about, but I don't have any performance degradation on my 5.7 Hemi. Told that the dealer, they just change the oil and say it's okay. Okay, well, getting that tick is one of 2 different ticks. It's either A, manifold bolts, which I just got done on my work truck because number 8, both of those manifold bolts broke, or it's a lifter going bad. So if you've ever heard a lifter go bad, it sounds a lot like an exhaust leak, but the difference is when you start the vehicle up, it'll tick. When you slowly give it some throttle, the tick will go away. And then when you take your foot off the throttle, if the tick comes back, that's normally a bad lifter. If the tick just goes away after 5 or 7 seconds, that's typically an exhaust leak. Oh, Doc Div's just telling Tad about issues with a race motor, and Tad saying no use of oil. Yeah, it sounds to me like I don't think you got anything. There's nothing nefarious going wrong with it, Tad. I really don't think so, man. In fact, I would take a look at the rest of the assembly and see if there's some other type or some other way for there to be some type of a contaminant getting in there. Again, could be something going on with the catch can itself. I doubt. I mean, you've got that many oil changes behind it, and it's not burning any oil. You got to remember that the way that the PCV system works is it's just an air circuit. It starts at your intake, runs through the engine, comes back out through your catch can, and into your crankcase. That's basically just how it works. So, in other words, there's no way, if there's metal getting drug into there, that would mean that the metal itself would be in suspension along with crankcase vapor. And it's just really not how that stuff works. So, I mean, if that's what's in your catch can, I would just think that it's coming from somewhere else, especially with it not having any oil issues. Mike's saying, P.S. Thanks, B. Mason. I'll check my added 6.1 intake manifold. Very good. Cool, guys. Well, listen, I've got to wake up super early in the morning. I want to thank everybody for hanging out and enjoying a little bit of story time with me there about that video. If you haven't seen it, good Lord, Torque. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a lot of fun, that minivan video. And what's up, buddy? And got my baby boy over here. That's a wrap on this one, guys. Sorry, I'm fading fast. But we'll catch you on the next one. And y'all stay safe out there. We're getting on the back half of this whole COVID thing. But keep wearing your mask. If not for yourself, do it for others. God bless y'all. Love each and every one of y'all. And cannot wait to see you all on the next one. And that is a wrap. Adios.